Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to a brand new Pokemon challenge. My name is Tion, and today we're going to be figuring out whether we could beat Pokemon FireRed or LeafGreen with only a Qwilfish. Qwilfish was introduced in Generation 2, and some people didn't even know he existed. He is almost the #1 most forgotten Pokemon in the Pokemon universe. Qwilfish's stats could be a lot worse. With a total of 430 and attack at 95, followed by its speed at 85, this is not a bad Pokemon. In Generation 3, the special physical split makes all poison type moves physical, so the attack stat is definitely going to help us in this run. We don't have that many moves we can learn from level up, but at level 9 we do get Minimize, which is the equivalent of Double Team in Generation 3, which is definitely going to be helpful throughout this run. Qwilfish can learn a good variety of HM/TM moves as well, so we should be good moveset wise. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this run, guys. I hope you do enjoy. Using the Universal Pokemon Randomizer, I do replace Squirtle with Qwilfish. This is going to make our rival take Bulbasaur, eventually evolving into Venusaur and definitely giving us the hardest challenge. Qwilfish is a male this time, so no using Attract in the final battle if we even get that far, and I really couldn't come up with a good original name, so we just ended up naming Qwilfish Spike. In the first battle, we do end up having 3 moves already, having Spikes, Tackle, and Poison Sting. Poison Sting isn't going to be very effective, so we just end up using Tackle, eventually tackling our way to victory. This battle really doesn't matter since we would have progressed anyway even if we have lost, so we move on to the next part. Making our way through Viridian Forest, we do have the battle of the Spugcatcher that has a level 9 Weedle, but once we defeat him, we can go grind in the grass in Pewter City. At level 13, we learn Water Gun, and I really don't even want to think about taking on Brock without having Water Gun, and we are at level 12 already, so what's one more level? After taking out some Pidgeys and Rattata, we eventually get to level 13 where Spike is trying to learn Water Gun. Since we already started with 3 moves and learned Minimize along the way at level 9, I end up replacing Spikes. Spikes is a very good move competitively, but in a game where it's rare for trainers to switch out, it's not really worth keeping around. Plus, keeping Tackle and Poison Sting is going to be really beneficial for grinding later. With our newfound move Water Gun, I think that we're easily going to be able to beat Brock. Brock leads off with his level 12 Geodude, and we lead off with Spike. I don't even bother healing up before this battle because I'm pretty confident we could win. In just one Water Gun, Geodude goes down, and next up is Onix at level 14. Obviously, Onix is weak to water as well, so we just have the hope a Water Gun is able to one-hit KO it, and it is. Just like that, we defeat Brock and only 2 Water Guns. After easily defeating Brock, we do get the Boulder Badge and move on to Mount Moon. In Mount Moon, I end up picking up the Helix Fossil. I know if I didn't tell you guys, you would ask me in the comments, and you know what? You should. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. In Cerulean City, we do have to take on our rival Gary. Now, Gary does have some pretty strong Pokemon, but we do have Minimize at this point, and we definitely do take advantage of using that move. Pidgeotto ends up going for a few sand attacks, and a few of them actually connect. Pidgeotto then goes for a quick attack, poisoning itself since we have the Poison Point ability. With the combination of Poison and Water Gun, we're easily able to take out Pidgeotto. Next up is Abra, who can't do anything, so we take it out with a couple Poison Stings, and next up is Rattata, who also goes down to a few Poison Stings. Last but not least is Bulbasaur at level 18, and we hit it with a Poison Sting, not doing too much damage, and then we end up using Tackle to finish it off with a critical hit. We then make our way to Bill's house and pick up the SS ticket so we can progress. Before we move on, we're going to go ahead and try to take on Misty. This did take a couple of tries, so we level up all the way to level 25. Now that we have a good level advantage, we're going to set up a few Minimizes and then use Revenge. Revenge is probably the best option for this fight as it ends up doing a lot of damage. Revenge is doing about 50% damage, and Staryu is also healing 50% with a Recover, and it takes a very long time, but eventually we get Staryu down low enough and finish it off with a Poison Sting. Once we finally take out Staryu, next up is Starmie. Over the course of a few attempts, I realized that I did have to poison Starmie, and on this run, luckily, the first Poison Sting ends up poisoning him. We end up getting hit with a critical Water Pulse, doing a lot of damage, but Starmie ends up missing the remainder of its Water Pulses due to the Minimizes we set up earlier. Eventually, we get lucky and hit a critical Poison Sting, taking out Starmie, defeating Misty, and getting the Cascade Badge. Next up is the SSN. On the SSN, we have to take out our rival once again. After a few attempts, I realized that Ivysaur is a big issue, so we end up having to set up a few Minimizes. After we set up a few Minimizes, we end up taking out Pidgeotto with a critical Water Gun. Next up is Kadabra, who disables Water Gun, and we take out with the Poison Sting. Raticate's out next, and we keep using Poison Sting and eventually poison it and take it out. Last but not least is Ivysaur. Since we did set up a few Minimizes, we end up getting lucky, and Ivysaur misses its Vine Whip as we hit it with a couple Poison Stings, doing a good amount of damage. Ivysaur ends up missing its Sleep Powder, and we're able to finish finish it off with one more poison sting, defeating our rival once again. We then go up to the captain's quarters and heal him of his seasickness as he gives us HM01 cut. After receiving a Farfetch'd and teaching it cut, it's time for Lieutenant Serge. After leveling up a few times, I think that we're able to take out most of his Pokemon with only one Water Pulse. He leads off with a level 21 Voltorb who goes down to only one Water Pulse as I expected. Next out is a level 18 Pikachu who also goes down to one Water Pulse, and last up is Raichu. Surprisingly enough, we actually end up outspeeding this Raichu as we hit it with a Water Pulse, doing about half damage and also confusing him. As he hits himself in confusion, Lieutenant Surge heals him up with a full heal and we take him out. I honestly thought that battle would be a lot harder, but surprisingly enough, Qwilfish was able to handle it pretty well. Next up is Rock Tunnel, and since we are a water type, we're actually going to have a pretty easy time getting through it. After doing all these challenges, I finally know where the exit is, and it doesn't take that long to get through Rock Tunnel anymore, but we find our way out and then head on to the Lost Tower. And unfortunately at this level, we're not able to beat our rival because Ivysaur every single time ended up taking us out with a combination of Razor Leaf and Sleep Powder. We'll just have to come back to this one later. I decided to go to Celadon City where we go to the Rocket Hideout and fight Giovanni. At this point of the game, Giovanni has two Pokemon that are weak to water and a Kangaskhan, so I know that this battle's probably not going to be too much trouble. Onyx goes down to one Water Pulse, and next up is Rhyhorn at level 24 who also goes down to one Water Pulse. Last out is a level 29 Kangaskhan who is not weak to water, so we go for our strongest move, Hydro Pump, doing a lot of damage, and luckily we end up connecting with both, taking it out. Since we're already in Celadon City, next I want to attempt Erica. This battle with Erica I knew was not going to be easy considering that she uses grass types. I just end up spamming Hydro Pump and a few minimizes just to give us a better chance. I was able to take out her Victory Bell and Tangela relatively easy, but her Vileplume always put a stop to Spike. Once we make it to Vileplume, we hit it with a couple Hydro Pumps doing a lot of damage as we miss our last Hydro Pump, and now we're out of Hydro Pump PP. Since we set up a few minimizes earlier, we're just able to spam Water Pulse doing a good amount of damage and eventually taking out Vileplume, defeating Erica. I'm honestly surprised I was able to beat Erica without grinding up. Although this did take about 20 attempts, I would say it's worth it. Now that we're a slightly higher level than we were, we're going to go back to the Lost Tower and try to take on our rival once again. Taking on our rival in the Lost Tower actually went pretty well. We end up hitting Pidgeotto with a Water Pulse as it takes itself out with confusion, and we're able to one-shot Kadabra. Gyarados ends up using Thrash, poisoning itself as we take it out with a Hydro Pump, and Growlithe also goes down to one Water Pulse. Last but not least is his Ivysaur, and this is the Pokemon that was definitely causing us the most problems last time. Spike ends up connecting with a really strong Hydro Pump, doing just over half damage to Ivysaur as we get put to sleep. Since we're already asleep, Ivysaur really can't do anything besides spam Razor Leaf, and he misses his first one and then connects with his other two, not doing almost any damage at all as we wake up and finish off Ivysaur with one more Hydro Pump. Honestly, that was a really lucky battle because his Gyarados always caused us an issue, and Ivysaur actually went down and we didn't miss any Hydro Pumps. I cannot be any happier with that battle. After murdering Marowak once again, Mr. Fuji gives us the Pokeflute so we continue on our grand adventure. Next up is our rival in the Silphco building, and we are at level 52 now, so we have a pretty significant level advantage. I end up setting up a lot of minimizes here on Pidgeot as Pidgeot slowly dies of poison, and we finish it off with a Water Pulse. The same thing happens to Alakazam, and next up is Gyarados. I end up using Poison Sting on Gyarados to get some poison damage off as it finally goes down to a Water Pulse as well as Growlithe. Last but not least is Venusaur at level 40, and since we did set up all of those minimizes at the beginning, Venusaur ends up missing all of its attacks, and we finally finish it off, beating our rival. Next up is Giovanni, and of course Giovanni has these annoying Poison Point Pokemon, but since we are attacking specially and not physically this time, we do not have to worry about getting poisoned. Nidorino ends up going down to a Water Pulse, and next up is Kangaskhan at level 35. We end up missing our first Hydro Pump, but the next one connects, doing a lot of damage. As he's building up Rage, we're able to easily finish it off. Next out is a level 37 Rhyhorn, and for some reason I went for Hydro Pump here instead of Water Pulse, but it connected, so it's fine. Next up is Nidoqueen at level 41, who takes a lot of damage from a Water Pulse. One more Water Pulse is almost enough to take it out, but it brings him into the red health as we use one more Water Pulse to finish him off, beating Giovanni. Man, this Giovanni guy's pretty cool. I wonder if he knows who the 8th gym leader is. Do you guys know? If you do, leave a comment below telling me, because I have no idea. I then pick up the illegal Master Ball from the president, and he tells us to keep quiet about it, so we instantly go to the police and have him arrested. After that, we go to Sabrina's gym because it is closer than Koga's. I know we're not doing this in order, but I almost never do these gym battles in order. Sabrina leads off with a level 38 Kadabra as I go for Hydro Pump, unfortunately missing as Kadabra sets up a Reflect. Once Hydro Pump actually connects, it easily takes out Kadabra, and next up is Mr. Mime. The female Mr. Mime almost goes down to 1 Hydro Pump as it gets healed up with a Hyper Potion as it gets hit with a critical Water Pulse, almost taking it out once again. Mr. Mime gets healed up once again as we hit it with a Water Pulse, doing a good amount of damage, and we use Water Pulse once again, getting another crit, taking it out. Next up is a level 43 Alakazam who takes a ton of damage from Hydro Pump as we finish it off with yet another Water Pulse. This is just crazy. Last out is Venomoth at level 38 who takes a lot of damage from a Hydro Pump, and we're able to finish it off with 1 more Water Pulse. The 3 critical Water Pulses definitely helped us out in this battle as we get the Marsh Badge from Sabrina. Next up is Koga. Koga is of course the Poison type gym leader who is actually weaker than Sabrina, so this battle shouldn't be as hard. Koga leads off with a level 37 Coughing who ends up going down to only 1 Water Pulse. Next out is Muck at level 39 who takes a lot of damage from a Hydro Pump, but unfortunately sets up a Minimize, making our other Hydro Pump miss. I end up going for Water Pulse here because it has a higher accuracy than Hydro Pump. We actually connect, but it leaves Muck with a sliver of HP as it gets healed up with a Hyper Potion. I end up going for Hydro Pump once again, and luckily it connects, doing about half HP to Muck, and I know 1 more is enough to take it out, and I end up going for it, and it actually connects, taking out Muck. Next out is yet another level 37 Coughing who goes down to only 1 Water Pulse, and last up is a level 47 Wheezing. Unfortunately, we get hit with a Smoke Screen, lowering our accuracy, but we still able to connect with a Water Pulse, doing a good amount of damage to Wheezing. We actually land another, almost taking it out. Of course, Koga is a big cheater and ends up using a Hyper Potion, healing Wheezing back up to full HP. Fortunately, that Smoke Screen was not enough to stop Spike from connecting with all these Water Pulses, and we're able to bring its HP right back down to 0. Looking back at it, I have no idea why I didn't get the Surf HM from the Safari Zone. I just guess it's my stubbornness more than anything. I end up grabbing the Golden Teeth for the Warden, of course, and we also pick up the TM for Double Team, which is completely irrelevant because we already have Minimize. We also pick up HM03 Surf from the Attendant. Now, I'm not going to replace Water Pulse right away, even if I do at all, because the Confuse chance is actually really worth it. Since we already have Hydro Pump, I don't really think we need it. We then make our way to Cinnabar Island where we find the Pokemon Mansion, and we have to get the key so we could actually access Blaine's gym. Blaine, of course, is the Fire type gym leader, and of course, I'm not really worried about this gym since we do have some really good water moves. First out is Growlithe at level 42, and he easily goes down in only 1 Water Pulse. Next out is a level 40 Ponyta, who also goes down to 1 Water Pulse. Surprise, surprise. Next up is a level 42 Rapidash, who almost goes down to 1 Water Pulse as it retaliates with a Fire Blast, not doing any damage at all. Blaine then heals up Rapidash, bringing it back to full HP as we bring it right back down to red, and it gets healed up again, and we bring it back down into red, and then we're able to finish it off. That was pretty annoying. Last but not least is his level 47 Arcanine, which is definitely his strongest Pokemon. Unfortunately, he avoids our first Hydro Pump as we get hit with a Fire Blast, but our second Hydro Pump connects, taking out Arcanine in only 1 hit. To literally no one's shock, we end up beating Blaine first try, getting the Volcano Badge, and we head on to the elusive 8th gym leader. I wonder who he is. This is your final chance to make guesses in the comments, guys. And oh look! I am shooketh to my very core. It is Giovanni. Out of all the people, I would have never guessed. After some deliberation, I decided to replace Water Pulse for Surf because Surf is just the better move overall. The Confuse chance is always nice, but Surf is just a safer and more strong option. Well guys, here we go with the 8th and final gym leader, Giovanni. This one is going to be a close one. He leads off with a level 45 Rhyhorn, and he somehow goes down to only 1 Surf. I guess the Poke Gods, Arceus himself, is looking down upon this battle. Next out was Doug Trio, and we end up going for Surf, and oh my gosh, once again we have been blessed by Arceus himself. Another Rhyhorn. Wow, I wonder what's going to happen. Can you guys get? One disappointing gym battle later, we get the Earth Badge from Giovanni, giving us access to the Elite Four. But before that, we all know we have to deal with our rival once again right before Victory Road. I end up buying the TM for Ice Beam because this Venusaur I know is going to cause a huge issue, and I end up actually replacing Hydro Pump instead of Poison Sting because I'm thinking that poisoning Pokemon in the Elite Four is going to be really helpful. Now, this battle with our rival definitely was not easy. The Pidgeot at the very beginning was is really annoying, and since we have Ice Beam, I just decided not to use it because I may be the best player on the entire planet. After we take down Pidgeot, next up is a Alakazam at level 47 who goes down to 2 Surfs as well, but not before he gets off a useless Calm Mind. After Alakazam, next up is a level 45 Growlithe who has Intimidate, and luckily that does not affect us since we are attacking specially. We're able to take it out in only 1 Surf. Next out is a level 45 Rhyhorn who obviously goes down to 1 Surf as well. Once Rhyhorn is taken care of, next up is Gyarados, and Gyarados is extremely annoying as I do not have any good moves to actually hit him with. Ice Beam is neutral and it does an okay amount of damage as he sets up a Rain Dance. Since Gyarados set up Rain Dance, water type moves are now boosted, so I end up going for Surf instead, and it ends up actually doing a lot of damage as we're able to finish it off with only 3 more Surfs. Now that one of the threats is out of the way, next up is the biggest threat, Venusaur at level 53. Obviously we end up going for Ice Beam here, doing a good amount of damage, almost half actually, as we do get hit with a Razor Leaf, doing a decent amount of damage as we return with another Ice Beam, and Venusaur retaliates with a Synthesis. Even after trying to heal itself up, it ends up losing the battle as we just keep on spamming Ice Beams, and eventually we do end up freezing Venusaur, but he unthaws the same turn of course and goes for another Synthesis. As I hit him with another Ice Beam, he goes for Razor Leaf, and that gives us an opportunity to finish him off with another Ice Beam. Later in the game when we face the rival and he has an unlimited stock of full restores, that's definitely going to be a very annoying battle. Eventually I find my way out of Victory Road and we finally get to face the Elite Four. Now I know at this level we're going to struggle a lot, so I know a little bit of grinding is due. After grinding up to 70, I used my 6 rare candies and get Spike up to level 76 and replace Poison Sting for Toxic because Toxic is obviously the better choice. Fun fact guys, I actually ended up streaming this entire run. If you want to make sure you see the next run that is done, make sure to follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/TOWOO. That was actually chat's idea to replace Poison Sting with Toxic because I definitely would have went in there with Poison Sting. Well guys, here we go. Time for the Elite Four. Right before we take on the Elite Four, we also pick up the leftovers because we would be stupid not to. Now that's out of the way, let's actually get into the Elite Four. Lorelei, the Ice type specialist, is up first, and of course I'm not really that worried because we have a lot of levels and we also have Toxic and Minimize, one of the most trolly sets I could think of. Although Dugong does have Safeguard, we're able to get off a Toxic before she actually sets one up. This allows us to take out Dugong with a combination of Surf and Poison damage. Next out is Cloyster at level 51, and I end up going for Surf because I know Cloyster's special defense isn't that good, and once we hit Cloyster twice with a Surf it goes down. Next out is a Slowbro at level 52, and I really don't have a good move against it, so I just end up using Toxic. I then set up a Minimize, and then I get put to sleep with a Yawn. A few turns later I do wake up and finish off Slowbro with a Surf. Next out is a level 54 Jinx who ends up taking massive damage through Surf and gets healed up with a full restore, and eventually she switches into Lapras. Lapras has Water Absorb, so we can't use Surf, so we just end up going for Toxic, and then we spam Minimize to raise our evasiveness. The only attacking move we have on Spike is Ice Beam, and I know that's not going to do too much damage to Lapras, so we just stall out time and let Poison do its thing. Once Lapras gets into red health, it gets healed up with a full restore, and we just use Toxic once again. This did take a little while considering that we really didn't have any good attacking moves against Lapras, but eventually Toxic does its job and we're able to finish it off. Last but not least is the Jinx we tried to finish off earlier, and a Surf is almost enough to do it as she barely hangs on with a sliver of HP as we finish it off with a Ice Beam. Considering we really didn't have any good moves to hit Lorelei with, I think that went pretty well. Next up is the Elite Four member Bruno. Bruno leads off with his level 51 Onix and it goes down in only 1 Surf. He sends out his level 54 Onix and the same thing happens to him. Next out is a level 53 Hitmonchan who takes massive damage from Surf. Luckily 2 Surfs is enough to take it out, and next up is a level 53 Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee takes a lot of damage from an Ice Beam since it was a critical hit, as he returns with his own critical Mega Kick as we take it out with one more Ice Beam. Last but not least is his level 53 Machamp who takes a little bit of damage from Ice Beam as he misses his Scary Face. The next turn he connects with a Rock Tomb as we land another Ice Beam, and he heals up with a Citrus Berry, so I go ahead and use Toxic. I end up using Minimize here to try to get some more Toxic damage off and hopefully dodge his attacks, but he ends up connecting with a Cross Chop as the next turn I use an Ice Beam, and with the combination of Toxic, he goes down. I'm glad that I picked up a few Ethers because I am almost completely out of PP at this point. Next up is Elite Four member Agatha. Agatha always leads off with her level 54 Gengar, which loves to spam double team, so I thought I'd just do the same thing back and use Minimize. Once I have my Minimizes set up, I end up going for Surf and eventually take it out. Next out is a level 53 Haunter who goes for Hypnosis, and luckily it misses as I use a Surf and almost take it down in one hit, but unfortunately gets healed up with a full restore. I end up going for Ice Beam instead to get it out of the full restore range, and I'm able to take it out in only 2 hits. Next out is her level level 58 Gengar, and I luckily get a critical hit with Surf and take it out right away. Next up is Golbat at level 54, and I end up using Ice Beam, almost taking it out as it hits us with Confuse Ray. Luckily, Spike is able to break out of Confusion and use Surf once again, almost taking out Golbat as we finish it off with one more Surf. Last but not least is Arbok at level 56, and we are now out of Surf PP, so we have to settle for Ice Beam. Ice Beam does a decent amount of damage, but we're just short of taking it out in 2 as we avoid both of Arbok's attacks and finish it off in 3 Ice Beams. I'm really cutting it close with PP on this run. I keep saying PP. Next up is Elite Four member Lance, who specializes in dragon types, and this battle was an absolute pain to deal with. Gyarados ends up getting poisoned by my Poison Point ability as I'm able to take it down with a combination of Poison Damage and Ice Beam. Now I am trying to conserve Ice Beam PP here, but I only have 3 left, so I try to whittle Dragonair's HP down with Toxic Damage, and I just realize it's useless because he has Sedge Skin, and I just end up taking him out. If that wasn't bad enough, he has another Dragonair who ends up taking a little bit more Toxic Damage in the end, but I still have to finish it off with Ice Beam nonetheless. Luckily though, it only took 1 Ice Beam per Dragonair, so we do have 1 more Ice Beam to take out Dragonite. I'm assuming that 1 Ice Beam is enough to take out Dragonite since it is 4 times super effective, but I end up getting the crit, so I guess I'll never really know. Now because this battle took so long because that stupid Gyarados, I have no PP whatsoever, so I have to end up running myself out of PP so I have access to Struggle as Aerodactyl gets healed up with the Full Restore twice, and eventually I win with Struggle. If that is not dedication, I do not know what is. So this is pretty stupid of me. I thought I have some more PP restoring items and I was going to save it for the champion battle, but I look and I see I only have 2 PP ups and 1 ether, which definitely isn't enough. My first thought was I could just use the 2 PP ups on minimize and I was able to maybe set up minimizes and then win with Struggle, but I found out the hard way that was not going to come easy. I mean, I seriously get super close sometimes. I was literally 1 hit away from winning, and then Venusaur ends up connecting with a Solar Beam, taking us out and making me just lose my mind. After looking through my TM list, I figured out that I could actually learn Shockwave, which is really shocking to me. Now that we have an actual attacking move, I bet this is going to go a lot easier than last time. Pidgeot's out first at level 59, and I end up setting up all my minimizes and taking it out with only 2 Shockwaves. Next out is Alakazam at level 57, who also goes down to a combination of Shockwaves and Ice Beam. Next out is Rhyhorn at level 59, who ends up taking a lot of damage from Ice Beam. We also managed to freeze it. Of course, the champion uses a Full Restore, and then once again after we hit it with another Ice Beam, but eventually we're able to take it out with Ice Beams. Next out is Gyarados at level 59, who goes down to only 2 Shockwaves, and next up is Arcanine. Arcanine's all the way up at level 61, and this does take a very long time to take it out, but eventually, even after 2 Full Restores, we managed to take out Arcanine. Last but not least is Venusaur at level 53, and I know if we get hit with 1 Solar Beam, Spike is going down. Luckily, we have a few Ice Beams left in the tank. We have 4, which is more than enough to take out Venusaur. We just have to hope we don't get hit and we'll be fine. Of course, I end up going for Ice Beam, doing just half damage to Venusaur as he starts charging up a Solar Beam. Now, we do have our minimizes set up, so the chance that Venusaur actually hits us is pretty low, but it's still there, and that's enough to end the battle, and we have to do this all over again. I heal up a little bit with my leftovers, but Venusaur unfortunately has a Citrus Berry, bringing him right above half damage, so 1 Ice Beam is no longer enough to take it out. As I go for Ice Beam one more time, it only leaves Venusaur with a sliver of HP. All we have to do is hope that this Solar Beam does not connect. Fortunately for us, the Solar Beam ends up missing, and our rival actually ends up using all of his Full Restores on Gyarados and Arcanine, so Venusaur has none to use. And for the final time, we click Ice Beam on Venusaur, and of course it goes down, defeating the champion and becoming the Pokemon League champion with only a Qwilfish. That was an extremely fun run to do, guys. It did take a super long time. I have learned from this run that you need to pick up all the ethers and elixirs you can so you avoid situations like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button below, and if you disliked it for some reason, press the dislike button and let me know how I can improve in the comments below. Plus, Oak said we left with Squirtle. Hashtag respect for Qwilfish. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, I have an entire playlist of me doing challenges just like this one, so if you're interested, go check out the playlist below. Like I said, guys, if you want to see me do these live, make sure you go follow the Twitch, as I will be going over there and doing these live. Like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.